Welcome to the 1958 Lawyer, the show for attorneys who know the old model isn't working anymore. The billable hour, the 12-hour day, the expensive office no one visits. Your hosts, Ron and Rebecca Boxstaller, are here to question all of that and more by exploring smarter, healthier, more flexible ways to run a law firm. No more burnout, no more outdated expectations, just real conversations with attorneys who are proving there's a better way. If you're ready to build a law firm that's profitable and livable, you're in the right place. Now here are your hosts, Ron and Rebecca.
Welcome to the 1958 Lawyer, the podcast about business of law. I'm your host, Ron Boxstaller, joined by my co-host, Rebecca. Here's a number that should stop every attorney in their tracks. So roughly 2/3 of prospective clients hire the first attorney who responds to them. Not the best lawyer, not the cheapest, the first one that answers the phone. And yet 1 out of every 3 law firms never respond to leads coming through their own website. The case is being won and lost in the first 10 minutes after a prospect reaches out, and most firms don't even know what's happening. Our guest today has spent more than 25 years on the front lines of exactly this problem. Robert Harney is the founder and president of Open One Solutions, a Chicago-based firm that's been building voice IP and business phone systems since 2009. And today, AI-enabled voice platforms that are quietly closing the gaps where firms lose clients. The routing failures, the voicemail traps, the after-hours dead zones. He's also president of the Business Executives Association of Chicago. I believe the incoming president or the current president of Rotary, will clarify that, and a fixture in the Chicago small business community. If your phone system is where you're making marketing dollars go to die, this is the episode that fixes it. All right, welcome to the show, Robert.
All right, well, welcome, Ron. Thank you, and Rebecca. Just to clarify a few things, I am the past president of the BEA Association, and I am the president nominee for Rotary One, the Rotary Club in Chicago. So just excellent, that clarification.
Excellent. We'll get those straight.
Thank you.
I think it's clear to say you're very, very active in the community. So that's a great thing. That's kind of where we're at. Well, let's get this. Every attorney listening has spent money on marketing, websites, ads, referrals. Almost none of them have looked hard at what happens when the phone actually rings. You've been living inside that moment for 25 years. With that, take us back. How does a guy go from Ameritech in the late 90s to founding, you might have to explain to people what Ameritech is, and founding his own telecom company in 2009. What did you see in the industry that made you say, I can do this better?
Back in the late 90s when I was at Ameritech and moved forward, went to another large enterprise NEC where we sold large phone services and systems. What I saw all of a sudden was that VoIP was coming, and you could run a phone company literally from your garage. And back in the day, there were people running phone systems out of their garage. At one time, I had a Frankenstein VoIP network. And then they continuously evolved and they got better and better as the internet became stronger, because way back in the day, it was dial-up and then you had DSL. Well, then you had broadband, and now broadband has moved into fiber. So we have robust internet. And so today we don't have to worry about voice on the internet. And that's where I'm at. And then what's kind of cool has been a lot of the solutions that have been created around voice on the internet and a lot of other advanced capabilities. So for a very cost affordable basis, people can have the power of what used to be multi-million-dollar phone systems.
Interesting. I definitely want to talk about the cost piece of that in a minute. But first, you call it getting businesses out of, quote, telecom hell. So what does telecom hell actually look like for a small practice or a solo practitioner? What does that phone call look like from an attorney who's finally had enough?
Excellent question. Back in the day, you had the phone guy, right? They would come out to your office, they would check things, make sure the phones were all working, everything was working good. And just because of how the world changed, it no longer became profitable to have to be a phone provider, to sell phone systems themselves because of the advent of VoIP. And the phone guys all went away. And then you had a lot of these really big corporations that got built out of VoIP. And the problem is they have like this contact center that you have to call. So now you got to wait on hold for 2 hours. Now trying to get to the right person, trying to get someone to be able to actually design the solution that's right for you doesn't exist. So what's great is there's been the advent of folks like myself that have come about where we have our own solution. And we do something called white labeling today, which means we use a small fraction of a really big system so we don't have to have the multi-million-dollar investment, and we can really focus on the client's needs. So when you call up, our phones are answered within 30 seconds by a VoIP engineer. We address that issue right then and there. And that's how we begin to take people away from telecom hell. And then we also begin to look at the cost of where things are for clients. Many times they don't analyze their phone bill. A lot of times we start with the analysis, and all of a sudden we can find 40% plus savings for clients just because they don't understand what they're spending their money on, and they see it's a bill, I got to pay it.
Right. Well, Open One Solutions is a family business. And as was mentioned in the opening, you're deep in the Chicago community, you're involved in a lot of things. How does that local relationship first approach shape how you help your clients and build out their phone systems?
What's great, Rebecca, it's that where we can really get to know our clients. We get to know how do they need the solution to work for them. We ask, how do your customers and your clients connect with you? Is it voice? Is it video? Is it texting? Is it SMS? Do we need to look at different AI solutions? How is it? And then also internally, how do you communicate within the organization? Do you have work at home people? Do you need road warriors that are on the go that have a soft phone on their iPhone or their Android device? What is it? And then do we need to integrate with CRMs like a HubSpot or some specialty software? Do we need to analyze calls? What is it that we really need to do so we can convert your communications network into a profit money machine for your organization and convert happier, more productive employees?
The talk sounds great. It seems like this would be awesome, but automating this, if we're even talking about automating, seems like it could be, daunting, especially for small firms. Before we go deeper, let me put one more number out there on the table for our listeners. MIT's lead response management study found that the odds of even reaching a lead drop 100 times when you call back 30 minutes after inquiry instead of within 5 minutes. Are you seeing numbers like this out there, Robert? Are you talking to these your clients and saying, yeah, this is what's happening, or how are you addressing some of these issues? These just seem like crazy numbers to me.
Yeah, part of it too is getting analytics. We have different analytics software that's very inexpensive that allows to see where the call is coming in from. We can provide clients with multiple different numbers. So their Google, they have a different number. They have a different number for the different ad groups that they're working with so they can see what's happening. We can even begin to record calls, to analyze calls. So when they're connected to someone for coaching, again, this is so we can find out what do we need to do to ensure that call converts into a live prospect, but not just a prospect, but then a sale. And we found that in a lot of different companies that people will just call. If they cannot get to someone live or to get something they can get an answer quickly, they just pick up the phone and they call the next. And that, like you said, is a lost sale.
Yeah.
So when we have solutions that can track people down with Find Me, Follow Me, collect the data, that it can be forwarded to the individual for a rapid response. I even have it set up on my phone. If someone calls the sales line, I know it's a sales call. I know that's an important call, so I need to take it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, you're the person who gets called when the phones are failing. When you walk into a law firm, What are the failure points you most often see? Is it routing? Is it a voicemail trap? Is it after hours gap? What are kind of the low-hanging fruit things that you look at
Yeah,
first?
first of all, we need to just back up a second.
Okay.
What we do is we actually take a look at their network.
Okay.
Because the single most important thing for quality voice, you have to have great internet connection, and then you have to have a great internal network. Those switches, those routers, that stuff. So that's the first thing I like to check to make sure all of that is in place. And if not, we need to have that discussion that it doesn't matter what VoIP provider you go with, it's not going to be good unless if we make these changes. Then once those changes are made, it's the questions. It's, okay, how do calls come into your office? Who answers the phone? How are they handled? How do you know if an attorney is on the phone or not? What do you need to do in order to process those calls and to work with clients? We have one firm, what they do, it was very important to them to have phones at their houses and at the office that mimic everything together, and also the app on their cell phone. Well, in the other system they were on, they used to have 3 different phone numbers, 3 different extensions. In our system, it's one phone number, one extension, one button on the phone. So whether it's the work at home phone or the office phone, they can look at the light, they see that, oh, Joe's on the phone. It made it a lot easier for this customer to interact internally and externally with their customers, because sometimes people didn't know what number should I call.
Yeah. Attorneys, they hear phone system and they think IT expense, not a revenue problem. You mentioned this earlier, kind of rephrasing this is, let's make the business case for, how does the phone setup directly decide whether a 6-figure matter signs with you or the firm down the street? How are you making the attorney you're talking to as a prospective client realize this is a revenue generator more so than an expense?
That is where it goes back to, how is the call being handled? This is many times people's first impression when they contact a firm. Does it go to the auto attendant? Is the auto attendant professionally recorded? Is there a professional voice that's recorded the auto attendant? Is it asking where it goes into even in AI, and where we're even advising people that you let it be known that this is a virtual assistant. I'm here to assist you and direct you to the right individual. It's when folks know how to answer the phone, and even reviewing, how do you wish to properly answer the call? So it becomes and adds that personal touch. And then use. How easy is it to use? The system needs to be really easy to use.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have an example of maybe a first contact failure that you walked into and noticed, like one that still makes you shake your head when you're telling stories about it?
Yeah, calls when people call and it literally would go nowhere.
Mm.
Or you would call and then it would just disconnect. Stuff like that still exists. Or you can't get to a person. So you get into the auto attendant, even if you know the individual that you're trying to reach, you can't speak their name, you can't enter their extension, it just goes somewhere and you don't know where it's going. Those are where I find some of the big epic fails that folks have had with deployment of their systems.
Is this because people keep their phones a long time, and that's obviously you don't make changes very often, and the technology changing really fast, or what's kind of leading to where we're at today?
I think there's a combination, with what has happened in the past is that sometimes staff has changed. So they don't have someone to be able to update the system. A lot of times people and firms have come to us, and I'll even start teaching them about I go, do you want to learn the back end?
Right.
And the smart firms are like, I don't even want to know what the back end looks like. I want to know that I can pick up the phone and call your company and someone will fix it and change it, add a new employee. So whatever it is that we need done, it will just get done in a very efficient manner. Another client came to us because they called another very huge provider, and 3 weeks later, they're finally getting a call back, and they needed a phone 3 weeks ago for the new hire. The new hire has been without a phone for a month. They just decided they're coming over to us. They no longer can work with a
Wow.
company that can't get back to them, especially as they're a growing organization. You can't afford to have people without communication.
It's crazy how things are out there. And I know they're out there. We've seen it, right? We've seen it when clients join us that it's just, well, I guess they just think that's what it is, but there's a better way to do this. And, I keep wanting to go back to, the stats that are out there about firms not responding to their clients, right? There's the 67% rule. I think we're going to chat about that in a minute. 2/3 of the callers that come in don't get a response in a timely fashion. And if you're talking in the law firm, it's the first attorney that the client talks to, they actually get the work 67% of the time. That's, it's a really consistent stat that's out there. And if no one ever calls you back because you didn't know you got a call, or you didn't have a system in place to take that call or, follow up, how are you setting up systems? What are you seeing? Maybe a couple ideas of how you're setting up systems today that kind of, let's alleviate that problem. And can you automate this?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big ways to automate this is looking as AI. And we have to have that discussion. Is it right? What type of clients do you have that's calling in and will they be happy to engage? And part of it is you need to make AI friendly. You need to be honest and authentic that this is AI. I'm a virtual receptionist. I'm here to assist you and get you to the right individual. Maybe ask a few questions that, this information is personal and gets passed on to that attorney. The other way is that going with analytics, right? We can now get reporting from the system. We can see, did people actually answer the phone? Sometimes what happens is the calls just don't get picked up. The reception just doesn't answer the phone. So then what do? Where did that call go? Did it go to someone's voicemail? We have another one where we run a voicemail report for the client daily that gets sent to them to see what voicemails haven't been checked and answered in the system.
That's interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's keep the going. You mentioned AI. You've been doing this 25 years, and then AI showed up. Has it actually shown up so it's viable to be used with the law firm today? How is it transforming the business at Open One, and what can it actually do today for small firms versus what's still science fiction?
What the whole big thing is about, we need to find out, what it is you're trying to accomplish. AI for the sake of any technology for just, I want to throw in this technology does not make sense. It's, what's my use case? How do I need it to work? What do I need it to do? Okay, so we'll start out simple. Like, I even had one group, they wanted to have 5 languages, everything thrown in at once and all this. I go, no, we're going to start simple. But what's really cool with our system, if the AI prompts and starts talking in English and the caller responds in Spanish, our solution will actually change automatically to Spanish and then speak to that individual in Spanish, which puts people a lot at ease. So it's really designing the system, finding out, and then also basically finding out how are people interacting with the AI. We actually rate the calls to see, was this a positive call, a negative call, what was good, what was not as good, what needs to be improved. So then we can train and constantly train the AI to better improve itself. So that way it engages with clients much better. Think of AI as like this 3-year-old, right? And sometimes 3-year-olds, we need to teach them. We need to kind of teach them how to do things right. And that's how with AI too, we need to teach it. We need to tweak it so it's doing things in the manner that's a human caller wishes to engage.
Let's talk about the flip side then. What should people be genuinely concerned about with AI, and specifically for attorneys? You have a nervous prospect calling who wants to talk about a divorce or an injury.
Yeah.
Where does automation help? And where can it cost you the client, or even worse, the confidentiality?
That's an excellent question, Rebecca, because you have to be very careful when you vet the systems. Because a lot of systems, what they do is they use the data against you. And that is, in the details of the agreement, especially a lot of these online systems that people just sign up for. The issue that you need to look at is, what is the privacy policy? How is your data protected? Do they adhere to HIPAA, PCI, European compliance? So that way then the recordings, things are not being stored. So that way then it acts as just a regular conversation, only the intake information that they're after and what people are comfortable with. People may be comfortable that, okay, I don't want to leave any intake because it's AI. Great. Well, then AI can change course and say, great, let me take your name and phone number and I'll have Joe get back to you. Or hold on, let me see if Joe's available. That's the other cool part with AI, is it works as that virtual receptionist. So it can then try to reach out. You know that, oh, it's the receptionist reaching me. Maybe I better take that call. Oh, wow, I have a prospect on the line. Yeah, why don't you just please patch that individual through to me? So that's another really cool benefit that AI can bring to the table. It understands the difference between a prospect and someone maybe trying to sell you paper or something else that, that maybe you can't take that call right now.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Well, where do you see the industry heading 5 years from now? What does First Contact look for a firm that's doing it right?
What I really see is that it's going to be more the human touch integrated with AI.
Okay.
It's going to be high level touch, and really being with AI is good to help and assist and move people in the right direction. But then when you need that human interaction, we need to transfer that call to the proper individual that can truly assist that person. That is where I really see things. I see better analytics, where folks are actually really looking at, okay, what's happening? How are the calls? A lot is also about, I'll say something, it's called an API. Basically, an API allows different systems to talk to one another. And it's going to be about communication in an open environment that allows systems to communicate. So HubSpot communicates with the phone system that communicates with your practice management software. So everything's aligned and can talk to one another. It's not about closed systems. And it's also about working with best in class. Because of API, you go with the best practice management system. You don't want the practice management system that does, CRM. It also does phone system. It does this. It does everything, because then it's just a jack of all trades. So we can pick and choose which are our right products and then interact so they all work harmoniously together.
Let's bring this back. We're all about how we can bring in more retainers every month because we're talking to attorneys. So for the attorney listening in the car right now, what are the first 2 or 3 moves you'd tell them to make this month to stop losing clients at First Contact?
Pick up the phone. Obviously, that is definitely something that's important. And if you can't pick up the phone, ensure that the greetings are very warm and professionally produced. That way that you can put clients at ease, and then have a system so it can contact you or your associates. So as soon as humanly possible, someone can reach out to that contact. So someone can reach out to that prospect. If it's not right then and there, can we return that call within 5 minutes? What is that process? And then even when you're collecting the data, systems can automate and even send someone a text. Mm-hmm. Thank you for calling. We appreciate your call. Joe will be getting back to you shortly. Sometimes even simple things of that nature allow folks to put them at ease that, I found the right organization. They're not just letting me, they're not just not going to be following up with me. They've been proactive.
Okay.
It's interesting. So I want to go back to something that you brought up at the very beginning, and that's price and cost. So what is the biggest misconception attorneys have about a modern phone system and what it might cost? Because a lot of them are probably overpaying for less than they could be getting.
Yeah. Typically, how our systems are priced is that we price them based on user. So you only pay for the active user within the system, which is nice. The other thing is you always have to look at the total cost. And the total cost includes taxes and fees. And unfortunately, taxes and fees are a profit center because I've seen them in my industry go from anywhere from in the low 20s to almost 70%. I've even seen fees for New York sports fee. There's no such thing as a New York sports fee. But the company invented it because it's a profit center. Because what they do is they say that, oh, this is the price. They lead with a low seat price, but they make it up in all these taxes and fees. So it's always important to get a holistic proposal, taxes, fees, everything, so you know what am I going to pay on a true monthly basis. That's the first thing that I really say is important. And then it's going to be based upon what your needs are. Seat prices range. Like there, in many cases, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. And meaning there ain't no such thing as a free phone. You pay for that phone. So a lot of my clients buy their phones because then they pay a lower monthly charge with us. Because if they're not buying the phone, well, then I have to amortize that cost of the phone over the lifetime of the contract, right? So it's not free. There's still a cost. But people think, oh, it's free. It's free. Well, let's look at the real cost and we'll make both comparisons with clients. In fact, one of my clients who's been with us for 10 years, he goes, the smartest thing I ever did from you, Robert, was buy those damn phones.
Well, and the phones can be interchanged within different systems, carrier groups, right? So generally.
Yes. If you buy a phone that is a standard phone, like a Yealink or a Poly, those I feel are by far the two best manufacturers of phones. They can be used anywhere. But now if you got an Avaya phone, that's only going to work on the Avaya network. You're kind of stuck.
Good point.
And you got to be really careful that will this phone that I get from the provider be ubiquitous and work on any network? So if I get upset with you, can I take it somewhere else? Or am I stuck and will it only work forever and ever on your network?
That's a great point. That's what people got to think about is you never know if the network's going to change, time's going to change, business is going to change, company's going to get bought out. If you're going to have to move, you don't want to have to go buy the phone again as another expense. So great point.
Yeah.
Anything you had some questions. I want to make sure we covered everything. We're about to wrap up, but Robert, is anything we haven't hit on that you want to let our listeners know about?
I think the big thing is, buyer beware. You need to take a look, but really get a partner. You're an attorney. You don't want to mess around with phone systems. You don't want to try to be the jack of all trades, the tech guy in your office, the phone guy, everything else, because that's time taken away from your billing at hundreds of dollars per hour. And now you're going to do $5 an hour work. No, let someone else do that work for you. Find the right partner that you can outsource that so you can just practice law. And then that partner has your back and is going to take care of you. So whether it's someone like myself or someone else, find that smaller company, that company that can provide that hands-on support, that has local service techs that can come to your office, or when you call them, the calls are answered immediately by a technician that can assist you, because that's what you need so you can just run your business.
All right. And there you have it, from a gentleman that's been doing it for 25 years in this industry, understands what he's talking about and what's happening out there. Robert, thank you for being here and for making the case that the phone isn't an IT line item. It's the front door for the firm. The breakdown of where first contact actually fails and when AI voice can and can't fix is something every attorney listening needed to hear. If today's conversation got you thinking about what happens when your phone rings or doesn't get answered, I hope you'll take one idea from Robert and put it to work this week. You can find Robert at open1solutions.com. You can reach him on LinkedIn. We're going to put all that information in the show notes. Robert, do you want to give out a phone number? We didn't have a phone number down for you.
Yeah, our main number is 312-780-1010. Option 1 is for sales. I even say check out option 2 for support. See how quickly our support team answers those calls.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you, Robert. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with a colleague who could use it. The 1958 Lawyer is brought to you by Amada. For more than 30 years, Amada has helped law firms of all sizes do more with less. Built on our 5 pillars: fractional support staff, virtual office options, office space, legal community, and marketing support. Whether you're a solo practitioner just starting out or an established firm looking to right-size your overhead, Amada gives you the infrastructure of a big firm without the big firm price tag. Learn more at amadacorp.com. Robert, thanks for being here. It was great having you on the show. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Rebecca. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the 1958 Lawyer. If you like the show, tell a friend, and please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to hear more about Ron, Rebecca, or Amada, go to amataoffices.com. That's amataoffices.com. All the links are also in the show notes.